a good match.
Okay.
These are two friends of mine. You know, I don't want to make it all about me here.
We'll see what kind of mountains Reuben has dusted up here.
Those are Euros.
Those aren't bad. Do you
Okay.
approve? You approve?
They're fine. It's at least some effort.
I've got a Fine Street Denizen for Bresler. For Pan, just an Opulent Palace and a passing of the turn. Reuben has made it known what he's up to here right away.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see what it deploys on the second turn of the game. Does have a Mardu Scout in hand. That's an option.
I'm just casting that bad boy.
He might be too. Looks like he's got 2 Mardu Scouts. So he's just going to play this. He'll trigger the Foundry Attendant, come across here for 2 points of damage. No dash here, just want to get the 3-1 in play.
I just can't get over Mardu Scout. I mean, Magic's in a very different place now with creatures, but wow, they would never have given Mono Red a creature like this back in the day.
You've had to play with some real doozies.
Oh, my goodness. I'm actually a little sad sometimes being in the booth seeing cards like Mardu Scout.
You feel like you should be out there.
This gets my engine revving.
How could anyone beat you if you had this in
I
your
know, are
hands?
you kidding me? Rage Weaver. Look it up. Had to cast that one.
Here is a Polluted Delta.
Firebrand Ranger.
Well, look at this. Take a look at old Big Weaves
This
here.
is back in the day. This is a card Mono Red decks played and were thrilled about, actually. This is one of the better cards in the deck.
My assumption is you had no black or green
No,
creatures.
nope.
The other one was, what was Firebrand Ranger?
Firebrand Ranger. Actually, an activated power, more pathetic. You could, in theory, build a deck where this activated power would come up occasionally.
Oh, wow.
This thing, on the other hand. Oofa.
Have you considered just playing a different deck
This
instead
is-
of playing this card?
I mean, that's a much longer conversation.
Here is a Satyr Wayfinder. That'll find Pan a copy of Yavimai Coast. Murder's Cut, a Courtship Crucifix, and a Wood Verbos will go to the graveyard. Firebrand Ranger, what a delight. Now this is the real deal. The Scout from
Yes.
Mardu.
3-1 with a power?
However, 1 toughness right now. Not great. This Satyr Wayfinder can trade with it.
Same vulnerability of Rage Weaver and Firebrand Ranger, however, so.
True. Here's a Foundry Denizen. That will trigger the other Foundry Denizen that's in play. And we'll see what else Bresler wants to do this turn. Looks like he does have a copy of Lightning Strike. Don't know if he wants to use that this turn to clear that Satyr Wayfinder out of the way. He'll play another copy of Foundry Denizen, trigger there. And in the red zone we go with 2/3 power attackers.
Now, this is going to be rough if Phimus has access to Bioblight.
Well, he's got 2 in his deck. We'll see if he has 1 in his hand.
Yeah, we're going to find out next turn.
Bresler's hand, Mardu Scout, and Lightning Strike. Those are the leftovers. Man will draw. Copy of Hero's Downfall. That's slow in this instance. Looks like he has 2 copies of that in his hand. Don't believe there's a Bioblight hanging out.
Well, if Phimus is thinking about it, then it's probably not.
We'll just play a force, pass that turn back over to Bresler. I'm out in the draw. Here is Mardu Scout. You have to imagine being dashed here.
I think I like dashing here quite a bit.
Party time.
Womp womp.
It was Bioblight.
Oh, and that was a slip up there. I think for both parties. I think Phimus should not have gotten greedy there.
Sure.
But Reuben could have played a land before combat and then lightning struck his own Foundry Denizen in response. It's not a great situation to be in, but the lightning strike is definitely worth 2 Foundry Denizens and 4 points of damage that turn. I think that it's possible Bioblight was not on Reuben's radar because he just assumed that if Phimus had it, Phimus would have just played it on his own turn.
I think a safe assumption,
Right.
but did not turn out to be the case. So now Bresler's in some real trouble. He's got his opponent down to 11, which isn't bad. Has a Lightning Strike and a Mardu Scout in hand. I don't know if he's going to be able to slog through these last points of damage.
It's going to be very hard. And Phimus' hand is no joke. I mean, there's this DC, a Murderous Cut, which he can cast for 1 mana for the remainder of the game.
There is Sidisi. That's on the stack. Lightning Strike will take care of it. Well, it'll be time to mill over a couple of cards here, but no zombie will come because Sidisi's not in play. So just now a passing of the turn. We have not seen the Brood Tyrant for a little while. That Players' Championship was almost 3 months ago now, and that's really the last time we saw it.
Yep, has been a bit.
Out in the draw. I feel like we're going to go dashing in for 3. Bresler will put Pan down to 8, and we'll pass the turn back over to Pan, who will draw a card. Another copy of Sidisi here.
And now do you run the risk of casting another CDC? If Reuben has another lightning strike here, then you're falling to 5, or do you just sit on your removal for a little bit? This is the best of both worlds. Allowing him to advance his board and leave up mana for removal in case something weird happens.
Here is Tasigur, the Golden Fang, on the cheap, just a single black mana. And it's a little surprising to me that we haven't seen Sultai decks actually pick up a little bit, because, of course, the base is always here, and we can take a look at Brad Nelson's deck and everyone else that has played Sultai Reanimator at the back end of last year, but they didn't have Tasigur then. They've got it now, so you would think that that's another option for those decks.
Yeah, you would assume so. But, I mean, players have incorporated Tasigur in a variety of strategies, and it always feels like, for me, Sultai always has plenty to do with its mana, and the fact that you play with some low-impact cards like Satyr Wayfinder and Sylvan Caryatid does take a little bit of the sting out of Tasigur, because you just spend a couple turns slogging through some garbage in your graveyard to really get it online. So I think Tasigur might actually be better for other decks than Sultai. With that said, I agree with you. It is just a pretty powerful addition as a 1-mana 4/5 this deck enables very easily.
Because this deck has no problem getting cards in its graveyard.
I mean, this is an early Tasigur, and Phimus still had the ability to cast Murderer's Cut for 1 in the same turn.
Yeah. So what Phimus is doing here, I think, as he does take his time on this turn, is just trying to figure out what is the easiest way for me to close out this game as quick as possible.
Yes.
Give Bresler as few draw steps as possible that are relevant. Don't want to open yourself up to anything like Mardu Scout, which he has in his hand, and just close the door as quickly as you can. That's what typically these kind of mid-range decks have to do against mono red. Now here's a Doomway Giant to block the road. Hordeling Outburst to draw. Not the best draw.
Right on time.
Yeah.
Right into the Doomway Giant.
Not the best draw.
I don't mind just emptying out the hand right here. At least gives you some hope.
I mean, what choice do you have?
Right, these cards are not getting any better.
Here are 3 Goblin tokens and a passing of the turn. Gonna put that Mardu Scott in reserve. Bile-Blight to draw. Phimus making this look easy.
You said 2 of those
There
in the main
are
deck?
2.
There are 2? Okay.
Here's the thing about Magic. You draw a card every turn.
Yep.
And you don't put the cards in your deck not to draw.
Yeah, they're there to draw, not to not draw, if that makes sense. You know what I mean.
Do I? Do I?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Phimus going to tread lightly here. Figure out exactly how he wants to deploy his cards. If he wants to cast Bile-Blight to get these tokens out of the way. Still has Hero's Downfall in his hand. Working with a small amount of black mana, though, only 2.
So you can probably guess at this point Reuben does not have Stoke the Flames in hand. So then the question becomes, is there a way to win this game in 2 turns? Because I do not want Reuben getting 2 draw steps to find back-to-back Stoke the Flames and kill me out of nowhere.
No attack there at all. Here's a Monastery Soul Spear. This is Mardu Scout. This is attack with everybody. This worked out fantastically here for Pan.
Oh, this is great. I mean, he gets to double block, he gets to Bile-Blight the tokens, and then he gets to untap, attack for 8, putting Reuben on 1 turn clock, and then you don't have to worry about back-to-back Stoke the Flames killing you out of nowhere.
That is correct. We'll see if Pan takes that route. There's Bile-Blight yet again. There go the Goblin tokens. Here are your blockers. The rest of those creatures will go to the graveyard. Pans will stay in play. Phimus will untap and draw a copy of Sylvan Caryatid. It's time to attack for 8. Bresler's down to 8. The follow-up's Caryatid to play a little defense against the haste threat. Pass that turn back. Bresler will take a draw step. His last one of the game. He'll pack it up. Phimus Pan's going to win game number 1 here over Reuben Bresler. Sultai Reanimator up a game here over Mono Red Aggro as we do turn our attention to the sideboard. Mono Red Mage, what do you got there?
3 copies of Prophetic Flame Speaker, 3 Forged Devils, 3 copies of Eidolon of the Great Revel, 2 Peak Eruptions, a Harness by Force, and 3 copies of Arc Lightning. I definitely like Prophetic Flame Speaker in this matchup. This card is trying to beat Bile-Blight decks, where you curve out with some little stuff and then play a Flame Speaker on 3. If they use a removal spell on your Flame Speaker, your little creatures get to hit for 1 more turn. If they cast Drown Sorrow, you get to untap with Prophetic Flame Speaker. That's a nice spot to be in. So I anticipate those are going to be coming in. I think 3 copies of Eidolon of the Great Revel here are okay as well. Phimus' deck is not really flush with that much cheap stuff, but even if it triggers once, it's a victory for Reuben, who doesn't really care about his life total in the matchup. I think the one copy of Harnessed by Force is also fine here. The Sultai deck doesn't often tap out for something big, but it does come up occasionally where they tap out for something like Doomweight Giant. Harnessed by Force can be pretty powerful there.
Other side of things, I'm staring at 3 Thoughtseizes, 3 Ashiok Nightmare Weaver, 2 additional Bioblights to go along with the 2 in the main deck, so that won't be a problem. Along with 2 Reclamation Sages, 2 Drowning Sorrows, 2 Disdainful Strokes, and a copy of Torrent Elemental. Things certainly do get better for Pan after sideboard.
I like the 2 copies of Drowning Sorrow, I like the 2 copies of Bioblade. Ashiok can take it or leave it, probably would. I think it's okay maybe on the play, probably poor on the draw.
Yeah.
But we'll see if that's how the card swings for Phimus as well.
Well, these players will get ready for game number 2. Sideboard some things in and out. While they do that, we will talk about not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 different editions of Cardboard Crack.
The first 3 editions were so well received that we went back to the printers for a 4th offering. All available on paperback right now, the very popular black and white comic, Magic the Gathering themed. Very funny, very popular, $12.99 a piece. StarCityGames.com/cardboardcrack to order your copies today.
Big fan of that comic. And as I say many times, I follow them on Twitter, and if you're not, you should be doing it. Because it's awesome. Kind of like this match that we are watching right now between Phimus Pan and Reuben Bresler. Mono red, baby. Is it ever going to crack through? When is its time?
I think it's an okay choice for this weekend. The problem is that I don't think it's hard to say it's any deck in Standard's time because the metagame is so fluid and there's so many different decks that there's a bunch of just reasonable choices across the board. Nothing strikes me as the best thing that's going on. So can Mono Red win a tournament? Sure, I think it's possible. But there's a lot of different decks competing. So even if decks aren't winning a tournament, that doesn't necessarily mean they're bad choices. It's just the metagame is very open.
I've just been informed via social media, our fantastic Twitter followers out there, that Phimus has a nice, fun Twitter handle. It's @dream_Themis.
Pretty good.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad. It doesn't take the cake over Stephen Green's Redneck Wins.
Redneck Wins is insane. That's an insane.
That's very good.
That's an insane Twitter handle.
But still, I can appreciate the moxie here by Pan.
Because Stephen Green, definitely a good old boy, you know?
That's right. And just fully embracing him.
Yeah.
And we love him. Commander versus Superstar.
Yes.
Stephen Green.
There's some people out there where I really contemplate how good would this person be in the booth. Stephen Green is definitely on my short list of, I would like it one day to give him a crack at it.
I have enough difficulty holding it together with you.
Yeah.
When you go on one of your legendary rants. So I think it would be tough with me.
One great untapped talent, in my opinion, is Magic Gathering Hall of Famer Platinum Paul Riesel. I think he would be the nuts at this.
We would be out of here.
I think I would be handed my walking papers pretty soon. He seems to be happy doing what he's doing, so I'm safe for now. But he's the one member of the community where I would love for him to get a crack at it.
Paul wants in, we're out. That's how it works.
Yep.
Could be a one-man booth.
Yeah, just Paul being hilarious, obviously very, very good at the game. A lot of insight.
He does okay.
A lot of great stories.
He does okay.
But for now, I'll take my job. It's fine.
Bucket
happy, happy with it.
Yep.
Not looking to leave, I'm just saying.
Well,
I think Paul would be exceptional.
Is there something you need to tell me?
No. I'm good.
Have I irked you too much?
No. Where do I got to be?
It's not over. It's not over yet. That's good. Well, Reuben Bresler with Mono Red Aggro here against Phimus Pan playing Sultai Reanimator. Game 2 going to be underway here in just a moment. Pan was able to draw a timely Bioblight in game number 1 to get the job done. And Bioblight, a card that's fantastic against all forms of Mono Red, really.
Yep. He drew a timely Bioblight, by which you mean he drew a Bioblight at some point in the game.
That's correct.
And it was just good enough to win.
That's exactly what I meant.
Yeah, Reuben went for broke there. A lot of times those 3-color decks don't have Bioblight game 1 because it's hard on the mana. It doesn't necessarily kill everything you're trying to kill. I think it was an okay roll of the dice there because Reuben's hand also had a second copy of Mardu Scout, so it's hard for him to play the game in such a fashion where Bioblight doesn't punish him significantly. But Phimus had it, plus the black mana necessary, so what are you going to do?
Scoop it up. Play the second game. That's what you do.
Win some, lose most.
Famous words by Ben Reuben. Bresler will take a look at his opening hand. Got to a good start last game. We'll see if he can do it yet again here.
gets much harder in games 2 and 3 because now, besides the 2 copies of BioBlight, which takes the wind out of your sails some percentage of the time, not always, but a good percentage of the time. Now he's playing against Drown in Sorrow, which takes the wind out of your sails every single time.
And 2 more copies of BioBlight, so there are 4 after board.
Right.
That'll make life difficult. But Pan is going to take a mulligan, perhaps an aggressive one, to find some interaction early, as he did not find what he was looking for. So down at 6 cards, he will go.
Well, you can't keep these really cumbersome hands against mono red. I think it's one of the decks in standard right now where you do have to mulligan very aggressively. Because if your first play of the game is a turn 3 downfall or turn 4 Sidisi, that's not getting the job done here. There's a lot of matches where you can keep hands like that against Abzan decks and other Sultai decks because the game is going to be pretty slow. They're not going to jump on top of you, but mono red, you got to go fishing for the right hands.
So we'll see what the former Legacy Open champion can find here. Last time we were in Los Angeles, he was our Legacy Open champion, was Phimus Pan. Had some Tombstalkers.
Yep. I remember that was a weird list.
It was very, very strange.
It's kind of coming back to me in small chunks now, but I remember
very controlling.
Yeah.
A lot more mid-range. Not Delver.
Yeah.
No. Much different build.
It was a Baleful Strix deck.
Yes, sir.
The Grindhouse.
But not Shardless.
No.
Yeah. Umezawa Shite was very powerful for Pan over the course of that tournament. Doesn't have access to that card here, thankfully. Here's a Temple of Malady for him to start. Reuben with a bit of a gesture there.
Reuben does have some flourishes at the table.
He does. Top card will go to the bottom. We'll go Pan's way. Bresler will take a draw. It's a Mardu Scout. It's being dashed.
Trying to hedge a little bit against Drown in Sorrow.
Yeah.
Gets the damage this turn.
Doesn't have much else to do. It actually has quite a few burn spells in hand, it seems. Here is the very annoying Satyr Wayfinder.
Well, this is not a bad turn for Reuben if he has a third land. He can go ahead, dash the Mardu Scout again, attack with Frenzy Goblin, trigger the Frenzy Goblin, make the Wayfinder unable to attack, to block rather, deal 4 damage, still not have to worry that much about Drown in Sorrow. That's a very slow game plan. It's susceptible to Phimus just flooding the board with creatures. Whip of Erebos can be powerful if Reuben tries to play the game this way, but his draw is allowing him to play around BioBlight and definitely Drown in Sorrow.
What it is a game plan.
Yeah.
That's important to have. Bresler on tap and take a draw. There is your mountain. This is your Rebel Master. So he's going to go this route instead of the Mardu Scout route. Trigger. Goblin. Frenzy's got to come in too, so that'll be the trade very quickly. 1 damage will come across. How do we like this play as opposed to Mardu Scout and then activate the
It depends
Frenzy
what
Goblin?
the curve on Reuben's hand looks like. I actually think that I would have preferred to just play the Rabble Master post-combat there. Reuben does have Wild Slash in hand, so we can just play that, say go, hopefully it doesn't get hit with Drown in Sorrow, but even if it does, it's only 2 creatures, not the end of the world, and the Wayfinder is now off the table. And then the following turn, you have Frenzy Goblin to handle a big play, and your Wild Slash can take care of the Satyr Wayfinder.
Well, Pan's going to take a long look at his hand. Forest there, so he does have a land drop. Also has Courser of Crewfix in hand. That's an option.
But I don't think the 1 point of damage in that spot is worth getting rid of the Frenzy Goblin.
Sure. I've been brought into the battlefield here. I was okay with Eric Smith being out there.
Sure. Is it because you know you're so likely to just get hit with a BioBlight here?
Perhaps it is. Here's a Temple of Mystery, a BioBlight, a Hero's Downfall, and an Opulent Palace. Those are the cards being revealed from Satyr Wayfinder. The Temple will be the land that Pan does take. The rest will go to the graveyard, of course. There is a forest to pass that turn back. Bresler will draw a copy of Monastery Swiftspear. Makes for a pretty good turn here, it seems.
Oh yeah, this is a really explosive turn. The question again is, how much is Reuben respecting Drown in Sorrow in the spot?
There is a Swiftspear. You can cast Wild Slash to get that Wayfinder out of the way if you'd like. You could also just dash this and say, everybody, let's go.
Yeah, the upshot of leaving the Wild Slash in hand here, Reuben can just send an attack with this board right here.
Sure.
Wayfinder can chump block or trade with one of the tokens. You can leave the Wild Slash in your hand, so if he untaps and plays Drown in Sorrow, you can Wild Slash in response, you Sugar Prowess or your Swift Spear, and you at least keep 1 creature in the next turn. And Phimus's blocks are pretty innocuous here. He's either trading with a Goblin or chump blocking your Rabble Master. Neither one of these things really necessitates him getting rid of the Wayfinder ahead of time, because you're happy if he trades with a token. It does not really matter that much if he chump blocks.
Well, Pan tried to get a little sneaky here by leaving up just a forest, but there's Nurburg in play.
Well, Reuben sniffed this out because, Phimus took the Temple last turn and then played an untapped land. So, yes, that Urborg is concealed, but this is not Reuben's first rodeo.
No, it is not. So it's Murderer's Cut time. Rabble Master's going to bite the dust. And now you have to imagine it's red zone time in some capacity. The question is just how are we going to do it?
And now using the Wild Slash does look a little bit more attractive.
Looks like it's just going to be Swift Spear.
And I think Reuben is willing to throw caution to the wind a little bit here as it pertains to Drown in Sorrow, because it doesn't seem like Phimus would go ahead and use a Murderer's Cut on the Rabble Master if he already had Drown in Sorrow.
Sure. The draw here is an Opulent Palace. You saw Bresler add a Eidolon of the Great Revel after combat. So his shields are down. We'll see what Pan can do here on his 4th turn of the game to take advantage.
Also, no one draws the card that slowly when they already have the Drown in Sorrow at hand.
Yeah, that's debatable. Phimus' play is rather deliberate. I thought he would have cast Bile Blight very quickly last game, and he did not. And now he's casting... Okay, I thought it was actually going to be Drown in Sorrow. It's going to be Reclamation Sage instead. That'll take care of the Eidolon. Phimus will have to take 2 to cast it. And Bresler will draw a card. A copy of Searing Blood.
Oodle Alley.
What a deal. Deal 2 to that, deal 3 to you.
This is the one card I talked about Reuben the most when we were exchanging some texts, where the list had 3 copies of Searing Blood in the 4th in the sideboard. And I said, if you're playing mono red, you're gambling on this card being good because it's the most powerful card in the deck by a mile.
Sure.
So if you're going to play this deck, play 4 copies of the main.
Looks like it's time for Corsair of Crewfix. That'll come down. Take a look at the top card. It's a copy of Satyr Wayfinder. Pan will play a Swamp, which means Bile Blight's online. He'll also go up to 6 thanks to the Corsair. And pass that turn back over to Bresler, who will untap, quickly draw a card. Picks up a Mount. He'll play that Mount. Stoke the Flames Mardu Scout in here. Could cast a Stoke, take care of the Corsair.
He can also play the Mardu Scout and convoke the Stoke.
Also true.
He can also just dash the Mardu Scout here, send in an attack, and try to leave the Stoke as something to burn him out with. That plays really bad if Phimus has a removal spell to play here.
Which he does. So he's just going to come in this way. And now here is Stoke before blockers, which will turn Whisper into a 2-3.
And I like this play a lot from Reuben because, you still get in the point of damage this turn, and you're minimizing your exposure to a sweeper because the Mardu Scout isn't committed to the table.
I think it's important to get Corsair off the table, too. There's a Satyr Wayfinder on top of the deck, which kind of implies that, okay, my opponent's going to get to find a land this turn and gain another life, and every point matters against these bills of red.
2/4s are also really good against 3/1s.
True.
So there's a bunch of arguments for getting that thing off the table.
Opulent Palace. Llanowar wasted the options. Opulent Palace looks like the choice here for Pan. It's a Sylvan Caryatid and a Bile Blight to go to the graveyard. Pan also has a copy of Reclamation Sage in hand, I believe. Plays the Opulent Palace very quickly. Bresler really wanting to untap here. Can't wait to see what his next draw step will be. There's Reclamation Sage. Shields are down. We go back Reuben's way. He'll take a draw. Swift Spear, not bad. We'll deploy that. Come in with these 2 creatures.
I think this is a spot where I would have considered dashing. I know it stinks because, you trade your Mardu Scout for a 3/1 here, or a 1/1. But given the nature of Sultai Reanimator, it's just so unlikely to me that this Mardu Scout's going to be good next turn because Phimus is going to have another blocker or he's going to have a removal spell at the ready. And the difference between getting into 5 and getting into 4 is significant with Stoke the Flames in your deck.
Nope, there's an attack for just 1. Is Pan willing to block now?
I think he kind of has to. Turns on Lightning Strike. Also, now you don't have to worry about Searing Blood potentially at all for the remainder of the game.
big draw there for Phimus. I believe it was a copy of Sidisi. And it was. So the Brood Tyrant's here. Turn over a couple of cards, see if a zombie will accompany it. It will not. I think we'll see a dashed Mardu Scout this time.
Reuben got paid off big time for this play.
Yeah. There's a mountain. There is a dashed Mardu Scout. Swift Spear, red zone. How are we blocking it for Phimus this turn?
Man.
No cards in Bresler's hand.
And Phimus has a land in hand.
Yep.
I'm probably blocking the Swift Spear going to 1. Yeah, I just think that because Phimus has no way to apply any pressure or gain any life, he needs the Sidisi to close the game out quickly. He goes to, if he trades here, he goes to 3. Reuben still has something in play, and he's got nothing going on. So I like this play. I think he's just got to get something going on.
Any zombies? No zombies.
Not bad.
3 damage, though. I think he may have a replacement Sidisi. He does. So any zombies? So no zombies.
Insane.
Yeah, I would be smiling too. Yep, this, dash, attack. There's your trade. Both players playing on the top of their deck, they each have a land in their hand. We'll start with Phimus. His draw looked to be, I believe, a Murderous Cut. May have been Tassiger.
I wish the arts weren't so similar on those 2 cards.
Yep.
It has tripped me up already a couple times. And they have a habit of appearing in the same decks.
They do.
So,
well, it is the Golden Fang. So we've cleared this up very quickly. Now, keep in mind, Bresler is at 17. That means a lot of draw steps for him, presumably, to try to find a burn spell to get the job done here.
he's got a lot of time.
Phimus is going to delve some cards out of his graveyard, make sure that his Tasker activations will net him something nice.
So there's some big draws here on Reuben's side of the table. If he has his 1 copy of Goblin Heel Cutter left in the deck, we're good to go.
A real spicer there.
Oh, yeah. And obviously all the burn spells, they're still good to go.
Limited All-Star. And that will be an activation Tasker right away. Carry added and Doomway Giant to the bin. And we'll see what Bresler gets to choose from.
I'm giving him back that Wayfinder because I want Searing Blood to be a live draw. And Phimus might be able to play around Searing Blood for the remainder of the game.
He's going to give him back Carry added.
Yeah, and I'm not a big fan of the carry added here because it means Heel Cutter's no longer good, and Searing Blood is not a live draw on Reuben's side of the table.
There's Fire Drink Crusader. Pass the turn back. Only costs 1 mana. There we go. Panel draw. Didn't get a great look.
A lot of huge draws at this point for Phimus.
Oh, yeah.
Whip of Erebos is the big one. That knocks Reuben straight out of the game if that card
That
shows
one will
up.
be lights out. He's taking a look at the graveyard. Feels like he's setting up Tasker activations. Turn over a couple cards. Whip of Erebos, Drown in Sorrow. Options aplenty. I do like your Satyr Wayfinder plan now just because it does turn on Searing Blood.
Yeah.
Because if you give him Reclamation Sage, the chances of him casting it, I think, are very low.
Right. Also, Satyr Wayfinder may muck up future Tassiker activations. Because if he mills over another low-impact card,
Sure.
then that's another activation where you give him something that doesn't matter. That probably won't come up this game because Phimus has a lot of stuff going on in his graveyard right now, and he has a Reclamation Sage that Reuben can still give him a couple other things, but...
Here comes the Golden Fang. No blocks there for Bresler, so he'll go down to 13. It's time for a carry added and pass that turn back. Bresler will draw. Lightning Strike. We're going upstairs and playing a 3rd game. Tied it up here between Mono Red and Sultai Reanimator.
Tough game there, but that's, kind of the way that Mono Red wants to execute the matchups post-board. Reuben needs to apply pressure, but not play in such a way that everything gets swallowed up by Drown in Sorrow.
Entertaining game. What's entertaining about that too is, we've talked about this quite a bit. It's very common for players, I believe, to believe that Mono Red is a very easy deck to play that game was anything but.
Yeah,
A lot of decisions there.
very possible that if Reuben took the line of play with the Mardu Scout several turns earlier that I had suggested, that he would have lost that game.
Yeah.
The way that Phimus' draw played out there, he was able to trade that Mardu Scout with a Sidisi, which is a huge victory.
Well, they're going to go back to the boards here. And while they do that, we'll take a look at our Season 1 schedule here. In Houston, well, that's where we were last week, and a fantastic stay. Thanks to everybody coming out to that Open Series event, our first time in Houston, hopefully not our last. Of course, Robert Burney, our champion with Green Red Devotion, which has certainly influenced the decisions that people have chosen to make here in Los Angeles. And we can't forget next week in our Modern Open Series, our first one in Baltimore.
Yeah, two big things going on that weekend. First of all, our first ever Modern Open Series 2-day event. And second, your first show off of the year.
Yes, I will be in Cancun.
After that, we go to Miami for the Grand Prix. Very excited about that. Dallas after that, a weekend off, and then the Season 1 Invitational in Richmond, Virginia. Standard and Legacy has the Invitational formats with a 2-day Standard Open attached, March 27th through 29th with me, you, and of course, Matthias Hunt in the booth.
It'll be a lot of fun. Looking forward to all those dates. We put a wrap here on Season number 1. It'll be over before you know it. And Jim Davis has got the lead right now. He's looking to punch his ticket to get back to the Players' Championship. Don't know who's going to be there. The only person, well, I guess we know one.
We do. Brad Nelson.
That's right, the champion will try to defend his title. You see John Casari there, local player, loves to brew.
San Diego player.
Yeah.
Good deck builder, has had some Open Series top 8s in the past, mostly in this convention center.
You have to imagine we'll see him at some point today.
Loves control decks.
Oh, yes.
He has not been as excited about Standard since Sphinx's Revelation has rotated out. That's been his jam.
It's easy to believe. People who like that card love that card.
Control on easy mode.
I've actually.
Hey, did you survive for your 8th land drop? Congratulations, you win the game for free.
I grew to love that card and those style of decks because, yes, it was control in easy mode. And, yes, when you have 9 lands in play, you're only thinking of one card to draw.
Yeah.
That was fun, though.
One of the great all-time Chapin lines in the booth, somewhat paraphrasing here, was someone casting the 3rd Revelation. And Chapin going, it's the 3rd Revelation that really kills you, if the 1st or 2nd one didn't.
Yeah. That one's lights out.
Yeah.
Tough thing here for Bresler. He's on the draw for game number 3. It's a tough spot to be with mono red, especially when your opponent, again, does have 4 Bob Lights after board, 4 Murderous Cuts, 4 Satyr Wayfinders, 2 Drowning Sorrows. A lot of great cards here for Pan.
I will say this, there is a saving grace in this matchup, is that mono red decks would definitely prefer to play against Sidisi than Siege Rhino. Siege Rhino can't be killed. The life swing really matters. The tokens that Sidisi generates means that Searing Bloods can be live later on in the game. I mean, those 2 cards, the difference is night and day in this matchup. Sidisi has other merits. There's other matches where Sidisi is so much more powerful than Siege Rhino. Mono red, Siege Rhino is at its best.
I do wonder about the inclusion, of Torn Elemental in Pan's sideboard. One in the main, one on the board. Of course, you are playing a Reanimator deck, and you can delve it away and then recast it through the text in the card. So maybe there are some interesting ways to go about using that card.
I love getting some spicy one-ups in these kind of lists, too. We saw, or have seen at least, Soul of Innistrad play that role sometimes in these kind of decks, too, where if you draw Soul of Innistrad, that's cool, and if it gets milled over, that's also really cool.
Yeah. Plus, in these kind of matches, like the Sultai Reanimator mirrors, and maybe Abzan Reanimator, or just like these kind of slow, grinded out Hornet Queen Soul of Innistrad decks, Torrent Elemental makes it so that your opponent, they can't block.
Yeah.
And that might be able to swing the game.
But I'm always happy to kick the tires on some high-impact one-ofs in these lists.
Also, could just be playing it and seeing if it's good.
Sure.
Because as strange as it is to say, Fate Reforged is still pretty new to what's going on in Standard, and before you know it, Dragons of Tarkir is going to be out too to shake things up yet again. So,
yeah, the set releases feel like they're so fast now.
Right? It's really wild. The Dragons, spoilers will be starting really, really soon about that set. And I feel like we haven't even touched Fate Reforged Standard.
I know.
Very little. Temple of Malady to start things off here for Pan. Both players kept their 7. A Mountain here for Bresler. He'll start off with a Monastery's Whisper. Into the red zone he goes. He's got the lead for now.
It's a nice thing for you to say.
I just thought
Currently has the lead.
Yeah. It's like when a basketball team scores the first 2 points of the game.
Right.
They're ahead.
We have our first lead of the game.
It's a Satyr Wayfinder. Turn over a couple of cards here. A Bile Blight, a Landmore Waste, an Island, and the Avamaya Coast. Island will go to the grip. Bresler will go to the bin. We'll head back Bresler's way for his second turn of the game. There is a Mountain very quickly. This is a Searing Blood. Get that out of the way. Trigger Prowess. Life is pretty good so far.
I mean, that's 5 points damage this turn, and you don't really care if you get hit by Drown in Sorrow.
Not at all.
Solid turn.
Back to pan we go. Sidisi the draw. An island and a passing of the turn. I'm sure Phimus has nothing.
Probably doesn't have anything in this spot. I'm guessing his hand is nothing.
Here's an attack for 1. No effects. Oh, he has something.
Yeah.
Hero's Downfall will take care of the Monastery of Swiftspear. The follow-up here is an Eidolon and a passing of the turn. Panel draw a copy of Bile Blight. There's land number 4. Sidisi, well, that's 4 mana, so it doesn't trigger the Eidolon. Will he get a zombie with it? Oh, wow. How lucky.
Though Phimus does have this covered between Wild Slash and Arc Lightning in his hand. Clearly, it's better if the CDC doesn't trigger.
Yep.
But Reuben's got some play here.
He'll have to take 2. He'll draw. Rabble Master. There's a land.
The other side of this is that last card, is that a heel cutter?
It is a heel cutter.
This is a pretty juicy heel cutter turn.
I don't hate it.
Keep the Arc Lightning in your hand. You get to deal a lot of damage this turn.
I guess the problem I have with that is I just kind of want Sidisi off of the table.
That's fine too, but this plays pretty close. I mean, if you kill the Sidisi right here, there's some turns Phimus has where he might lose the game. If he goes untapped Doomweight Giant, he's probably out of it.
Yeah, he gets heel cut the next turn
Right.
for a bunch of damage.
This is a tough turn.
Yeah, I like Arc Lightning here. Yeah, Reuben does have to take some more damage. Not that his life total matters all that much. He gets to come in for 2. Sidisi's out of the equation right now. Yes, Phimus does have a lot of cards in hand, but I like this exchange of resources so far.
I guess the tiebreaker has to be that you want to keep the board empty in case Phimus goes untap, cast, Whip of Erebos.
Zombie, no. His Sidisi's have been terrible. Unbelievable. Bresler going to quickly untap and draw. Eidolon the draw. Now, I am good with heel cutting this time. I don't like the idea of playing Rabble Master on this board. Don't like the idea of playing a second Eidolon when Bile Blight exists.
Yeah, this is a lot of damage. And again, Drown Sorrow always has to be a concern.
Yeah. You can cut some heals. What a deal. Or you can play a Rabble Master. Looks like he's going to go the Rabble Master route and make a Goblin token. The Goblin token will attack. You have to imagine a block takes place here. Yes, Phimus does have to be a little bit worried about Wild Slash, but I still think he probably blocks in this situation, and he will.
Yeah.
Time for a draw step. Looks like Corsair Crewfix.
Some tough turns here for Phimus.
For sure. Tough turns for both players, honestly. A lot of options on both sides. There's Wayfinder. Corsair. So that means the zombie's on the way.
And then also it means, assuming that Reuben remembered the trigger there, it's 2 damage for his trouble as well.
Yeah. There's a Satyr Wayfinder. So we'll see if players remembered all of their triggers here accordingly. Passing on the turn. Take a draw. Swiftspear. Heel Cutter with dash. Pan wants to take a look.
2 good deals.
Indeed.
Replacing my old friend Rubble Belt Maka as the two good deals choice of standard.
I forgot about old Rubble Belt. What a card. Pan with Bile Blight at the ready. Bresler ready to attack if he's allowed.
And this hero's downfall is taxed.
Bile Blight not all that great in this situation either. So decisions here for Pan. You said it wasn't going to be easy. You were right.
Yep. Almost feel like he has to kill the heel cutter and try to get that zombie token to trade with the Rabble Master. But this is a really hard turn here for Phimus.
Bile Blight will take care of the heel cutter. He'll have to take 2. There's your Goblin token. Let's see what's attacking. That's the big question in all of this.
I think I'm bringing the party.
Yep, looks like he agrees.
The cards on Reuben's side of the table are not getting better as time goes on. So even though some of these trades here are a little ugly, I don't think he has another choice.
He's just got to shorten the game.
Yep.
Which, oddly enough, I think both players want to do.
Yeah, in their own ways. I mean, Phimus definitely does not want the game to go on for another 10 turns. He wants to stabilize and turn it around quickly.
There are your blocks. Zombie in front of Monastery Swift Spear. Satyr Wayfinder, Chump blocking the Rabble Master. 3 damage will come across. It's 9-7. Passing of the turn. Pan with 2 cards in hand. He'll take a draw. Opulent Palace is what he's found. Leave the cards in his hand right now are Whip of Erebos, Courser of Crucifix, and that Palace.
I'm pretty excited about casting Whip of Erebos this turn.
I like it.
Doesn't trigger the Eidolon, gain some life, generate another blocker.
Potentially. If CDC hits. Which it does immediately. Get to gain 3 life, too.
I think my aversion to this play is if Reuben draws a kill spell for the zombie, it gets really bad.
Well, he did. Drew Stoke the Flames.
I mean, if it's Searing Blood, Phimus might die. I guess the flip side is he's just trying to end the game as fast as he possibly can.
Time to take a look at some things. See what Phimus can bring back here with the Whip of Erebos. That's what you got to be scared of. Stoke and Eidolon in hand.
And Searing Blood would have still not been lethal this turn. So I do like attacking with the zombie token.
Is there any great way to get out of this is the question. I think it's actually quite tough.
It's so hard to try to just kill Sidisi and play on because the Whip of Erebos then starts activating.
Well, there's the attackers. Rabble Master going to hang out on D. And of course, those creatures have lifelink, which makes it so difficult.
Yeah.
So very little damage dealt. A backup Eidolon. Bresler has to go down to 2. So he's spell locked, at least for right now. Outside of the Stoke, which gets around that problem. So now he needs Pan to make a mistake here. At least that's the hope.
I don't know if there's a mistake to be made.
Well, there's a Murderous Cut. That'll take care of the Rabble Master.
This should about wrap it up.
I think so.
This forces the hand on to Stoke the Flames. Phimus can get something back if something gets stoked. And with Reuben at 2, I just don't see a way out of this.
Because even if he casts Stoke, he has to tap all his creatures to do so.
Right.
Yeah, that's the big problem here.
And then he's looking at 3 creatures, 3 blockers, 3 attackers versus 1 blocker. There's no way to get out of it.
Phimus Pan going to win this matchup of Reuben Bresler 2-1. Sultai Randomator will take care of mono red aggro. And a very entertaining affair But our legacy champion from last year when we were in this building gets it done again. Pan off to a nice start.
Women Erebus is an interesting swing card in the matchup because sometimes it's so bad to draw because it's slow and cumbersome, and sometimes it's the whole game.
Yeah.
And that third game, it was the whole game.
Phimus Pan gets the W, 3-0 here. Reuben Bresler was on a 2-0 with Mono Red Aggro, but I wouldn't be surprised to see more of him over the course of this tournament, as it does seem as though Mono Red is a pretty good choice, though we've been saying that for a couple of standard opens now.
I think the deck is fine to play. I don't think it's the best deck in the room by any margin. It's probably not what I would play in an open series myself, but if you're the person inclined to do such things, I think it's a fine choice now, whereas, 2 or 3 months ago, I didn't really feel the same way.